So apparently, some husbands think they can just steal their wife's identity for a quick $80,000 and never get caught. But this wife was about to show him exactly how wrong he was. Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a husband who got so comfortable with his lies he forgot his wife actually checks her credit, and boy did that backfire. This woman doesn't just expose him, she takes everything and walks away while he's left begging. Real quick though, if you're enjoying what we do here, consider liking and subscribing. It's free and genuinely helps us out. Alright, now let's dive in. The call from Coastal Lending Services came during my lunch break. I'd just taken the first bite of my salad when my phone lit up with an unfamiliar number. Hello, this is Elizabeth Morgan speaking. Ms. Morgan, this is Trevor from Coastal Lending Services. I'm calling about your personal loan payment that's now 14 days late. I paused mid-chew. I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. I don't have any loans with Coastal Lending. Ma'am, we're showing an $80,000 personal loan under your name with a monthly payment of $1,458 due on the first of each month. This would be the first missed payment since the loan was taken out. I felt sick. That's impossible, and I never took out an $80,000 loan. I understand your concern, Trevor said in the practiced tone of someone who'd heard this denial before. Let me check some information. Your social security number is... He recited my entire social security number correctly. Then my birth date, then my home address, my grandmother's house where I grew up. Miss Morgan, are you still there? Yes, I said, my lunch forgotten. But there's been a mistake. I never applied for this loan. Well, the loan started 6 months ago. All the paperwork looks in order with your signature. I can send a copy of the missed payment notice to your email on file, which is... Wait, I interrupted as he read an email address I didn't recognize. That's not my email. My email is elizabeth.chen.morgan@gmail.com. A brief pause. Our system shows the primary contact as michael.morgan@westside.com with a secondary contact of lizmorgan76@quickmail.com. I don't have a Quickmail account. Never had one. But Michael had set up email addresses for household stuff before. I see, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Please send the information to my correct email. I'll look into this right away. After hanging up, I just sat there staring at my wilting salad. 6 months, $80,000. They had everything. My social, my birthday, my address, our house. I opened my laptop and logged into my credit monitoring service. The one Michael had called me paranoid for signing up for last year. 3 minutes later, there it was in black and white. Coastal Lending Services, $80,000 personal loan, started exactly 6 months ago. Current status, late payment. My hands started shaking as I logged into our joint checking account. The transaction history was right there. $5,000 transfers to Michael's personal account once a month, starting right when the loan was taken out. 6 transfers, $30,000 total. Where had the other $50,000 gone? I closed my laptop and rubbed my eyes. My head was pounding. I took 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, just like my yoga instructor taught me for stress. It didn't help. I needed more information before jumping to conclusions. There might be an explanation that didn't involve my husband forging my signature on loan documents, or a reason he'd been moving exactly. $5,000 a month to his personal account without saying a word. Or some legit purpose for an $80,000 loan I knew nothing about. I just couldn't think of one. Michael came home at 6:37 p.m., right on schedule for Wednesdays. I heard his key in the lock, then the thunk of his leather messenger bag hitting the entryway bench. Something smells amazing, he called out as he walked toward the kitchen, where I was stirring pasta sauce that had been cooking for an hour. His favorite with Italian sausage and extra basil. Just threw it together, I said as he pecked my cheek. I'd changed into the blue cashmere sweater he always liked and put on fresh lipstick before he got home. Playing it cool. Regular dinner, business as usual. You're too good to me, he said, pulling at his tie. How was your day? Interesting, I said, keeping my voice casual. I was thinking we should go over our finances tonight. Been a while since we've checked everything together. Michael's smile dropped for a split second, before bouncing back to full brightness. Finances? What brought this on? I shrugged, focusing on the sauce. Just that retirement talk my hospital had last week. Made me realize we should be more on top of our money situation. You know I've got it all handled, Michael said, reaching past me to grab a bottle of wine from the rack. I've been tracking our investments and things are looking good. No need to bore ourselves with numbers tonight. He uncorked the wine, a $90 bottle I'd been saving for something special, and poured 2 big glasses. Besides, he said, handing me a glass, I made reservations for Saturday at that new place downtown everyone's talking about. The chef trained under Gordon Ramsay, apparently. And just like that, the topic changed. Michael jumped into a story about a doctor who'd been really interested in his pharmaceutical pitch today, complete with wild hand gestures and perfect timing. I laughed when I was supposed to while trying to figure out how we could afford an expensive dinner when we supposedly couldn't pay our mysterious $80,000 loan. I'd married a man who could sell ice to penguins, as my grandma used to say. I just never thought he'd be selling me. At 1:17 a.m., I crept out of bed, making sure not to wake Michael. He was still breathing deep and steady, sleeping like someone without a worry in the world, or at least someone really good at putting problems in boxes. I tiptoed down the hallway to his home office. The house made those little creaking sounds it always did at night. Usually I found it comforting, but tonight those familiar noises made me jumpy. I was hunting for answers. Michael's office was super organized. One of the things that first drew me to him. Everything had its spot. Papers filed away, books lined up, desk clear except for his laptop and our honeymoon photo from Bali. I went straight to his desk and tried the top right drawer where he kept important stuff. Locked. My stomach dropped, but I wasn't really surprised. Last week I'd spotted him putting a small key in his jacket after getting something from his desk. I hadn't thought twice about it then. Now it seemed pretty suspicious. I checked the closet where his jacket hung and felt through all the pockets. Nothing there. I looked everywhere I could think of, under the desk drawer, behind the photo, inside that fake book on the shelf. No luck anywhere. I needed to think harder. I went back to the closet and checked his other jackets. The fourth one, a blazer he'd worn 2 days ago, had the key tucked in the inner pocket. Just a small silver key, nothing special looking, but obviously worth hiding. The key turned easily in the lock and the drawer opened. Inside, organized just as neatly as everything else in Michael's life, were several folders. I took them out and put them on the desk, switching on the small lamp to see better. The third folder had exactly what I was looking for: loan papers from Coastal Lending Services. I opened it with shaky hands and saw my name, my information, and a signature that looked almost like mine but definitely wasn't. The loan agreement showed the money had first gone into an account at First Western Bank, an account I'd never heard of. More papers showed where the money went after that, including those $5,000 monthly transfers to Michael's personal account that matched what I'd seen in our joint account. There was also a spreadsheet tracking what looked like gambling websites, win-loss amounts, and dates. The losses were way bigger than the wins. One entry showed he'd lost $17,000 in a single night. I took pictures of all the pages, emailed them to myself, and checked my inbox to make sure they sent. Then I put everything back exactly like I found it, locked the drawer, and slipped the key into Michael's jacket. I got back in bed but just lay there staring at the ceiling. How could Michael sleep so peacefully next to me after what he'd done, forging my signature and gambling away $80,000 in my name? I didn't sleep at all that night. Next morning at 8:30, after Michael left for work with his usual cheery goodbye and that same old, "I'll try not to be late for dinner," I called my sister. "Hey, Liz," Victoria answered right away. "What's up?" "You never call during work." "Everything's wrong," I said, finally breaking down. I told her the whole thing, the weird call, the credit report, all the money transfers, the documents I found, the gambling. Victoria actually stayed quiet and listened for once. When I finished, she didn't say anything for a second. "You need a lawyer, not just to talk with Michael," she said. "I know someone, Daniel Wilson. He deals with divorces where there's money stuff like this." Divorce? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I never said divorce. What do you think happens when your husband signs your name on an $80,000 loan and gambles it all away? Victoria asked. "This isn't something you fix with a nice chat, Liz. It's fraud. It's actually criminal." My head was killing me. "You don't get it. It's complicated." "It really isn't," Victoria said. "But fine. If you won't call him for divorce, at least talk to him about the financial fraud part. Just get some info. Figure out your options." Deep down, I knew she was right. Didn't make it any easier, though. "Okay," I said. "What's his number?" Victoria gave me the number, and I scribbled it in my everything notebook. The one with doctor's numbers, warranty dates, and car stuff. Weird to add divorce lawyer to that list. Like it was just another errand to run. "I'll call them right now," I promised. "Good. And Liz? Don't tell Michael you know. Not yet. Not until you've talked to Daniel." When we hung up, I glanced at the number, then picked up my phone. The receptionist answered quickly, her voice kind, but practiced when I explained about needing help with a husband who might be hiding money. "Mr. Wilson has an opening tomorrow at 10 a.m. Would that work for you?" "Tomorrow? So soon?" I'd be sitting with a divorce lawyer talking about ending my 5-year marriage. God, I felt sick. Yes, I said, penciling the time into my planner on the same page where our anniversary was marked. That works for me. Daniel Wilson's office was on the 12th floor of a downtown high-rise. The windows went from floor to ceiling with the city view I'd normally love. Today, I barely noticed it. I was too busy thinking about the folder I'd brought, full of printouts showing how my husband had screwed me over. Thanks for seeing me so quickly, Mr. Wilson. I managed to sound more put together than I felt. Please, call me Daniel. He stood up to shake my hand with a firm grip. Daniel was tall, with broad shoulders, wearing a navy suit that fit him perfectly. He had short hair and a neat beard, and when he looked at you, you could tell he was really listening. He didn't seem like someone who'd jump to conclusions or make empty promises, exactly what I needed right now. Victoria says you're the best, I said, sitting down where he pointed. She told me you work with situations like mine a lot. Financial fraud between spouses happens often enough that I've made it my focus. He sat back in his chair. Tell me what's going on. I'd practiced this whole conversation during my sleepless night, putting everything in order. Still, it was hard to start. Yesterday, I got a call about missing a payment on an $80,000 loan I never took out. I pushed the first document across his desk. When I checked my credit report, I found this. Daniel looked through the credit report without reacting. Last night, I found these in my husband's desk, I said, giving him the photos of the loan documents and gambling records. He faked my signature. He's been moving $5,000 every month from our joint account to his personal account. And he's been gambling too. Daniel looked at each document carefully, writing notes on a yellow pad now and then. He didn't say anything, which made it easier for me to keep going. There's more. I handed over the bank statements. These show the money moving from our joint account to his personal account. 6 months, $5,000 each month. He looked up. And you had no idea about this loan? None at all. Did you ever give him permission to sign your name on financial documents? No. Have you talked to him about what you found? Not yet. My sister thought I should talk to you first. Daniel nodded like that was smart. Your sister gave you great advice. He straightened the papers. Mrs. Morgan. Elizabeth, please. Elizabeth. He leaned in a bit. What I'm seeing here is identity theft and fraud. Just because you're married doesn't make it legal for your husband to fake your signature or take out loans in your name without telling you. I'd suspected as much, but hearing someone say it out loud hit me hard. What can I do? Daniel counted off on his fingers. Here's what you can do. 1. Press charges for identity theft and fraud. 2. Get a divorce based on what he did with your money. Or 3. Try to work things out but with serious money protections in place. None of these options seemed real. What happens if I press charges? You'd need to report it to the police, probably testify in court, and he might end up paying fines or even going to jail depending on how much money we're talking about. I pictured Michael being handcuffed. It made me feel sick to my stomach. What about divorce? I could barely say the word out loud. We'd file based on irreconcilable differences in the money issues. We'd ask for a fair split of everything, maybe more than half considering what happened. He paused. Victoria mentioned you own your house? Something about inheriting it? Yeah, my grandma left it to me, but I stopped feeling stupid about what I was going to say. I put Michael's name on the deed after we got married. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Daniel didn't react. When did you inherit the house exactly? 8 years ago. 3 years before I even met Michael. And there was no mortgage on it when you got it? No, my grandma bought it back in the 60s. It was paid off forever ago. Daniel scribbled something down. You've got a good case that the house should stay yours since you had it before marriage. Adding his name does make it trickier, but that doesn't automatically give him half, especially after what he did with your money. I felt so much better hearing that. Grandma worked her whole life for that house. No way could I let half of it go to cover Michael's gambling debts. She'd be so disappointed. And what about that third option? Trying to work things out? You'd need a post-nuptial agreement, separate finances, full transparency, and definitely some therapy, both together and separate. Your husband should probably get addiction counseling too. Daniel didn't sugarcoat anything. Look, Elizabeth, I have to be straight with you. When someone betrays you financially like this, it's really tough to get past it. The trust is just gone. I couldn't look up. So what should I do next, no matter which way I go? Collect more proof before you say anything to him. Find out exactly where your money stands. Talk to a financial advisor who deals with cases like this. He pulled out a business card from his drawer. Rachel Thompson is really good. She can help find any accounts or debts you don't know about yet. I put the card in my notebook. I need some time to think before I decide about pressing charges or getting divorced. That makes sense. Meanwhile, watch your back. Open your own bank account you can't touch. Get your important papers and valuable stuff somewhere safe. Take pictures of everything worth something in your house. I walked out of Daniel's office an hour later with a folder full of info, Rachel's number, and a better idea of where I stood legally. Emotionally? That was another story. My head was swimming with all these terms. Identity theft, financial fraud, separate property claims. I felt sick thinking about it all. I called Rachel Thompson from my car and couldn't believe she could fit me in the very next morning. With money problems like yours, we can't wait, she told me. The quicker we know what we're dealing with, the better I can help keep what's yours safe. That night, while Michael was working late, I dug up every financial document I could find. I sorted all the bank statements, investment stuff, insurance papers, and tax records into folders. When Michael finally got home, he didn't even notice. He was too wrapped up in telling me about some new doctor who might prescribe his company's meds to half the old folks in the county. I just nodded and smiled when I was supposed to, while making a mental list of everything valuable in our living room. Rachel Thompson's office couldn't have been more different from Daniel's. Instead of dark wood and city views, her place was bright with colorful walls and abstract art. Rachel came across as super focused from the moment she shook my hand and looked me in the eye. "Thanks so much for fitting me in so soon," I said, dropping my stack of folders on her desk. "Once someone knows you've caught them lying about money, things can get bad fast. We need to move quickly," she pointed to my folders. "You came ready." "That's great." Rachel was tall with short natural hair and wore bright coral lipstick that really popped against her dark skin. Her blue dress looked both professional and stylish. Something about how confident she seemed made me feel a bit less lost. "I sorted everything by type," I explained. "Banks, investments, property, insurance." "This helps a lot," Rachel said, opening the first folder. "Let's go through what you already know first, then figure out what might be hidden." For the next 2 hours, Rachel carefully went through every document, built spreadsheets, made calls to check information, and sometimes asked me to explain things. I sat there watching her piece together what was basically a financial mess of my life. "Elizabeth," she said finally, turning her screen so I could see it, "we found several accounts you didn't know about." On screen was a spreadsheet showing 3 credit cards in my name, totaling $27,000. I'd never even seen these cards before. "No way," I whispered. "I never signed up for any of these." "Unfortunately, anyone who has your social and personal info could easily apply online," Rachel said, her voice kind but straightforward. "And there's more." She pulled up another document, a home equity loan against our house. My house, for $50,000. "When did this happen?" I asked, barely able to get the words out. 3 months ago. I felt dizzy. That was $77,000 in new debt, on top of the $80,000 loan. All under my name, all without me knowing a thing about it. "That's over $150,000, I said, adding it up in my head. How could he even do this? With your good credit score, your income, and the equity in your house, lenders would jump to approve you. Rachel looked sympathetic but stayed professional. "What worries me most is how quickly this all happened. This kind of ramping up usually happens when there's an addiction driving the spending." "Gambling," I said. Rachel nodded. "The amounts and how often he's doing this fits that pattern. We need to protect you right away." She walked me through what we needed to do next. Put a fraud alert on my credit, fight the accounts I never authorized, document everything we own, lock up important papers, and set up my own separate accounts. "What about my house?" I asked. "I put his name on the deed after we got married, but I inherited it before that." "Daniel's right. You've got a strong case that the house is yours, especially with what's happening. Get together everything about the house. When you inherited it, what it was like then compared to any improvements during your marriage. Anything that shows it's really your property." I left Rachel's office with a step-by-step plan and a sick feeling in my gut. Michael had been lying to me way more than I ever thought possible. Over the next 2 days, I played detective in my own life. I bought a small recording device online that looked like a phone charger and stuck it in my husband's office where he makes those late-night calls I can't hear from our bedroom. I wasn't sure if it was totally legal, but Daniel had said I needed evidence, and I had to figure out what exactly I was dealing with. I took pictures of everything worth money in our house, electronics, jewelry, art, furniture, and made a list showing when we got each thing, who bought it, and where the money came from. My grandma's old mahogany dining table, my collection of first edition books from before we got married, those crazy expensive golf clubs my husband just had to have last summer. I put all my important papers in a small fireproof safe I bought and hid in the back of my closet. Behind some winter boots I hardly ever wear, birth certificate, passport, my grandma's will, the original house deed. Anything that proved who I was and what belonged to me before marriage. Friday evening, Michael walked into the kitchen while I was making dinner. I was thinking we might look at boats this weekend, he said like it was no big deal, grabbing a beer from the fridge. I almost dropped my knife mid-chop. Boats? Yeah, nothing fancy. Just a small one for weekends on the lake. Tyson at work just got one, says it's the best decision he ever made. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband had secretly racked up over $150,000 in debt in my name, and now he wanted to shop for a boat? Maybe we should focus on other financial priorities right now, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Michael brushed me off. We're doing fine. And anyway, we're just looking. He kissed my cheek and went to watch TV, completely clueless about how ridiculous he sounded. That conversation made up my mind. The next morning, while he was playing golf with clients, I drove to First National Bank and talked to a personal banker. I'd like to open a new account, I said, in my name only. 30 minutes later, I had a new checking account, savings account, and ATM card. I wrote a check for $6,500, the inheritance from my uncle that had been sitting in our joint savings for 3 months, and put it in my new account. As I watched the banker process the deposit, I felt different. For the first time since finding out what Michael had done, I wasn't just gathering information. I was doing something about it. It was just a small step toward getting back control, but it felt huge. The banker handed me my receipt with a smile. Anything else I can help you with today, Mrs. Morgan? No, I said, carefully putting my new bank cards in my wallet. I think this is a good start. I spent Saturday morning getting ready for what felt like an upcoming showdown. Never thought I'd be planning something like this with my own husband. After checking that Michael would be home around 6, I called Samantha. Hey Liz, what's up? Sam sounded cheerful as usual. I need a favor. My voice broke a little. A big one. Name it. I need you to come over tonight when I talk to Michael about what he's done. The line went quiet for a second. So you're really doing it? You're confronting him? Yes. I glanced out the window. I've got all the evidence together. I've talked to an attorney. I can't just pretend I don't know anymore. About damn time, Sam said. What do you need me to do? Hold him down while you punch him? Because I'm tiny but scrappy. I had to laugh at that. No assault charges, please. I just need moral support and a witness, in case things get bad. They won't, Sam said firmly, but I'll be there. Just tell me what you're thinking. I went over my plan, show the evidence bit by bit, stay calm, get him to admit everything while the recording device picked it all up. Samantha would be there at first, then head to the guest room, but stay in the house. I'll be there at 5:30, she promised. The rest of the day was a blur. I tested the recording device twice to make sure it worked. I organized all the financial papers in the order I wanted to show them. I practiced what I'd say, how I'd handle his denials, the exact tone I wanted to keep. When Samantha showed up, she hugged me hard before I could even shut the door. You've got this, she said, looking right at me. And I've got you. Sam wore black jeans and a deep red jacket, her curly hair tied back in what she called her business mode. She had her huge tote bag that somehow always had exactly what you needed in any crisis. Thanks for coming. I took her to the living room where I'd set everything up. I'm not sure I could do this alone. You could, she corrected, looking over my organized papers. But you shouldn't have to. We went over the plan one more time. Sam would take the armchair by the window. I'd be on the sofa, with all the paperwork laid out on the coffee table. The recording device, hidden inside what looked like a phone charger, was plugged into the wall behind the couch, pointing to where Michael would probably sit. Listen, Sam said, no matter what crap he comes up with, this isn't on you. You didn't make him fake your signature or blow through a fortune gambling. I nodded, but I still couldn't help wondering if I should have caught on earlier, or if I'd somehow made this possible by trusting him too much. At 6:08, I heard Michael's key in the lock. Sam gave my hand a quick squeeze, then let go as we both turned to the door. Hey, got us some Thai food. Michael called out as he walked in. I got you that curry, you. He stopped short when he spotted Samantha. Oh, didn't know we had company. Michael, I tried to sound neutral. We need to talk. Sit down, okay? His eyes flicked between us, then to the papers on the table. Something like panic crossed his face before his smile came back. Yeah, sure. Let me just put this in the kitchen. He held up the takeout bag. Sam, nice to see you. Joining us for dinner? This isn't about dinner, Michael, I said. Just sit down, please. He came back without the food and dropped into the chair across from me. What's going on? You're kind of freaking me out here. I took a deep breath and pushed the Coastal Lending Services document toward him. I got a call Monday about a missed payment on this loan. What's this all about? Michael glanced at the paper, then looked up with a confused expression. Huh? That's just the consolidation loan we got to clear some bills and fix up the kitchen. You signed it, don't you remember? I was stunned how easily he lied. Sam moved in her chair but stayed quiet like we'd planned. No, Michael. I don't remember because I never signed this. I pointed to the signature. That's not even how I write my name. Come on, it totally is. He gave a weird laugh. You signed it right here at the dining table like 6 months ago. I pulled out the credit report. I also found these 3 credit cards in my name that I never applied for. And this home equity line against my house. Michael's confident look slipped a little. Our house, he corrected automatically. And I thought we talked about these. Maybe not every detail, but stop lying. I kept my cool. I never signed any of these. I never said you could sign for me. Until Monday, I had no clue about any of this debt. Michael sat back with his arms crossed. I think you're mixed up, Elizabeth. We definitely discussed combining some expenses. Maybe not every single detail, but the overall idea. I showed him the bank statements. And these $5,000 monthly transfers to your personal account? Did we discuss those too? He narrowed his eyes. Have you been spying on me? Looking at our joint account isn't spying, Michael. It's just being responsible with money. Sam cleared her throat. I'll give you guys some space. She stood up, giving Michael a cold look before patting my shoulder. I'll be in the guest room if you need me, Liz. After she left, Michael leaned forward. What the hell, Elizabeth? You brought Sam here to ambush me? You're checking my bank accounts and accusing me of... what exactly? Identity theft? Fraud. I looked him straight in the eye. I'm not accusing. These are facts. You faked my signature on loan papers. You opened credit cards with my name. You took out a home equity loan on my house without telling me. Our house, he repeated, his voice getting harder. My inheritance? I shot back. And you still haven't answered my question. Where'd all the money go, Michael? That's over $150,000 in debt with my name on it. He ran his hand through his hair, something I used to think was cute, but now I just saw it as his tell when he was making stuff up. It was an investment opportunity, he finally said. A really promising one that couldn't wait to be discussed. I was going to surprise you when it paid off. What kind of investment? A tech startup. Very early stage. High risk, but high reward. What's the company called? He paused just slightly. Quantum Edge Solutions. I grabbed my phone, pretending to search. Weird. I can't find any company with that name. It's pre-registration, he said quickly. Super early stage, like I said. Michael. I put my phone down. I know about the gambling. He went pale. What? I found your spreadsheet tracking all the gambling websites, your wins and losses. I leaned in closer. I know you lost $17,000 in one night. He just stared at me, clearly trying to figure out what to say next. The silence felt like forever. Were you in my office? He finally asked. Going through my stuff? That's what you're worried about? Not that you stole my identity? Not that you racked up $150,000 in debt behind my back? Michael suddenly seemed to deflate. His shoulders dropped and he covered his face with his hands. I screwed up, Liz. I screwed up really bad. I waited, giving him room to continue. It started small, he mumbled, hardly looking at me. Just poker nights with clients. Then online when I couldn't sleep. I was winning at first, so it got exciting. He finally met my eyes. I really thought I could fix it before you found out. Just needed one big win to solve everything. But instead, you kept losing. He nodded, looking miserable. I took out that loan thinking I could turn it around. Then I maxed out those credit cards to pay off people who were getting impatient about their money. People? What people, Michael? He couldn't meet my eyes. Just some guys from private games I owe money to. I felt sick. Are these even legal gambling operations? His silence told me everything I needed to know. The home equity line of credit, I pushed. What about that? Same thing. He let out a heavy sigh. I was buying time, trying to come up with a plan. Just kept thinking my luck had to change. This isn't about luck, Michael. This is addiction. I can stop, he shot back. I have stopped. After losing big last time, I finally saw I had a problem. Haven't bet on anything in 2 weeks. I didn't buy it for a second, but arguing wouldn't get us anywhere. Why keep it from me? Why not ask for help? How could I? His voice broke. You're Miss Perfect with all your spreadsheets and savings accounts. You'd never get screwing up like this. A mistake? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Forging my signature on loan papers isn't a mistake. It's a crime. I'm your husband. He slammed his hand down hard. Everything I did was trying to give us a better life. By gambling away my inheritance? By putting my home at risk? Our home, he insisted again. The place my grandmother left to me. The home I owned free and clear before we even met. The same one you're now using as collateral for your gambling debts. Michael jumped up and started pacing. So what now? You've made your point. I screwed up. What exactly do you want from me? I want you to leave. He froze. What? I need time to think. Can't do that with you around. I tried to keep my voice steady even though my heart was racing. Go stay with your brother for a few days. You're kicking me out of my own home? I'm asking for space in my grandmother's house. The one you put up as collateral without even asking me. Michael gaped at me, then his face hardened. This is how you're going to handle this? 5 years of marriage, and you're just tossing me out? After 5 years of marriage, you committed fraud against me. I shot back. I'm not saying it's permanent. I just need space to think. He gave a bitter laugh. Right. And Sam just happens to be here watching. And all these papers just happen to be laid out like evidence. You made up your mind already, didn't you? I didn't give him an answer. Just pack enough for a few days. For a second, I thought he might dig in his heels. Then his shoulders dropped. Fine. I'll go. But we're not done here, Elizabeth. I stayed at the table while he went upstairs. He came back down 20 minutes later with a duffel bag. I'll call you tomorrow, he said, stopping at the doorway. We can talk when you're not so worked up. My jaw tightened at the suggestion I was just being emotional, but I only nodded. Goodbye, Michael. After the door shut, I sat frozen, listening to his car start up and pull away. Only then did I let out the breath I'd been holding. Sam appeared in the doorway. You okay? No. I hardly recognized my own voice. But I will be. She plopped down next to me and grabbed my hand. That took guts, Liz. He confessed to everything, I said. Got it all on the recording. Good. Sam squeezed my hand. What's next? I grabbed my phone. Now I call Daniel and tell him I want a divorce. Sam went to make tea while I called Daniel. It was Saturday night, but he'd given me his cell for emergencies. This definitely counted. Elizabeth? He picked up on the third ring. Everything okay? I confronted Michael, I told him. He admitted to the gambling, forging my signature, all of it. Got it all recorded. You have him on tape confessing to identity theft and fraud? Yes. That's huge. I could hear him switching to lawyer mode. Where is he now? He's gone to his brother's. I told him I needed space. Good. I can file for divorce first thing Monday. Meanwhile, you should definitely change your locks. Change the locks? I hadn't even thought of that. He's admitted to crimes that put you in major debt. He knows divorce is on the table. People get weird when cornered like this. After hanging up, I told Sam what Daniel said. He's right, she said right away. I know a locksmith who works nights. Let me text him. An hour and a half later, a guy named Lou had switched out all the locks. He handed over the new keys with a sympathetic look. Good luck, ma'am. As Lou's truck pulled away, Sam turned to me. Come crash at my place tonight? We can drink wine, watch awful movies, and not mention any of this unless you want to. It was tempting, but I shook my head. I need to stay here. It's my place. Not letting him chase me out. Then I'm crashing here, she announced. Don't even try to argue. That night, with Sam asleep in the guest room, I sat at my grandma's old dining table with my notebook. I started making lists. What I knew for sure, what I still needed to find out, what I had to do next. The house felt different now. Emptier, but somehow more mine again. I ran my fingers over the smooth table, picturing my grandma sitting here when I was 12, teaching me how to track household expenses. Always know where you stand, Elizabeth, she used to tell me. Financial independence is what gives you freedom in everything else. I didn't get it back then. I sure did now. I wrote one last thing on my list. Call locksmith about security system. I closed the notebook, pocketed my new keys, and headed upstairs. For the first time in 5 years, I was going to sleep in my own bed in my own house without Michael. Monday morning felt different. Clearer somehow, like I'd finally made the right choice, even if it was hard. I sat across from Daniel in his office while he worked on the divorce papers. I'll file this right away with irreconcilable differences and financial fraud as grounds, Daniel said, typing away. Given what's happening, we can ask for an urgent hearing about the house and money situation. How fast can we make that happen? I asked, holding the coffee mug his assistant had brought me. Since we've got fraud claims and proof he's still messing with your finances, we might get in front of a judge tomorrow. Daniel looked up from his screen. Courts take this identity theft and secret debt stuff really seriously, even between married people. I nodded and took a sip to calm my nerves. What's this hearing going to be like? Quick and focused on the immediate stuff. Protecting what you own, figuring out who gets the house for now, freezing accounts so he can't blow through any more of your money. Daniel sounded calm, which helped. The judge will probably issue temporary orders that stick until the divorce is final. My phone buzzed with a bank alert. I glanced down, thinking it would be another charge I didn't make. Oh my God, I couldn't hold it back. What happened? Daniel asked, suddenly alert. Michael just cleaned out our joint checking account. I showed him my phone. That's our household money, almost $7,200. Daniel stayed calm, but I saw him sit up straighter. Actually, this helps our case. It shows exactly why we need the court to step in fast. He wrote something down. I'll add this to our filing and ask the judge to address these missing funds specifically. I kept staring at my phone, now angry instead of shocked. He's already stolen over $150,000 through fraud, and now he takes what little we had left for bills? Sadly, we see this kind of thing a lot, Daniel said. Legally, either person on a joint account can take money out without asking. That's why I told you to open your own account. Thank goodness I'd already moved my uncle's inheritance to my private account. But that $7,200 was for groceries, utilities, and regular monthly stuff. I can file an urgent request today, Daniel continued. This actually makes our case stronger. While Daniel updated the paperwork, I texted Victoria, Michael emptied our joint account. Could use some help taking pictures of everything in the house this afternoon if you're free. She texted back almost instantly. That absolute waste of oxygen. I'll be there at 3, bringing my good camera. By the time I left Daniel's office, he'd filed the divorce petition and urgent motion electronically. He'd also got us a hearing for the next morning. The court clerk will try to serve Michael today, Daniel explained as we walked to the elevator. But since it's such short notice, you should tell him about the hearing yourself. That way he can't claim he didn't know. I paused. Do I have to talk to him? A text with the hearing details is enough. But save everything, Elizabeth. Daniel was gentle but firm. From now on, assume a judge might read any message between you two. On my drive home, I wrote a careful text to Michael. Urgent hearing scheduled for tomorrow at 9:30 a.m., County Courthouse, Room 312. My lawyer filed for temporary orders about our assets and property. He replied as I pulled into my driveway, What's the rush? I just needed some money. We can fix this without lawyers. I didn't answer. Victoria showed up at 3 o'clock on the dot with her fancy camera and looking ready for battle. She gave me a quick hug before getting down to business. We need to be really organized about this, she said, pulling out a notepad. Let's go room by room, photograph everything valuable, and write down when you got it and who paid for it. For the next 3 hours, we worked through the whole house. Victoria took pictures of everything. Furniture, electronics, art, jewelry, while I made a detailed list. I noted which things I had before marriage, which were family gifts, and which we bought together. These first editions were from grandmother's collection, I said as we worked on my bookshelf. And I bought these during college. Perfect! Inheritance and stuff you owned before marriage, Victoria said, snapping photos of each shelf. What about the dining set? Grandmother's. It came with the house. In Michael's office, I stopped in front of the locked drawer where I'd found those loan papers. Should we look inside? I asked. Victoria raised an eyebrow. It's your house, and he's been served divorce papers. I'd say that drawer probably has evidence of financial shenanigans your lawyer needs to see. I found the key where Michael always kept it and opened the drawer. There were way more financial papers than I'd seen during my late-night snooping. I carefully took them out and sorted them on his desk. Vic, check these out. I held up several unopened envelopes with casino logos. Bellagio, MGM Grand, Foxwoods. Those are comp offers, Victoria said, taking pictures of each envelope before I opened them. They only send those to regular gamblers who spend tons of money. The letters inside proved she was right. Dear Mr. Morgan, as a valued Diamond member, please enjoy our free 2-night suite package. One offered a $500 food credit for his continued loyalty. Another thanked him for his recent play and invited him to some exclusive tournament. These are dated from last week, I said, my hands shaking a little. He told me he hadn't gambled in 2 weeks. Of course he lied, Victoria said, sounding angry. Scan these and send them to Daniel right away. I found more papers too. Printouts of betting websites with usernames I'd never seen before, statements from some First Western bank account I didn't even know about, and a handwritten list of names with money amounts next to them. The biggest one just said Carson, $45,000, with nothing else explaining it. While I looked through everything for Daniel, Victoria kept taking pictures around the house. By 6:30, we had photos of every room and a list of everything in the house. What now? I asked when we finished. Now we order dinner because you look beat, Victoria said firmly. and then you need to rest before your hearing tomorrow. We were halfway through our Thai takeout when car lights flashed across the living room window, followed by a car door slamming shut. That's Michael's car, I said, putting down my fork. Victoria immediately tensed up. Want me to deal with this? Before I could answer, I heard keys rattling against the front door, then some frustrated mumbling. Then someone started knocking loudly. Elizabeth! Why are the locks changed? Michael yelled through the door. I walked up carefully with Victoria right behind me. Through the peephole, I saw Michael on the porch looking confused and annoyed. Michael, you need to go. I called through the door. You can talk to my lawyer. This is ridiculous, he said, knocking again. It's my house, too. Let me in. We need to talk about this hearing tomorrow. I'm not opening the door, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Please leave. Elizabeth? His voice got harder. Open the damn door. You can't lock me out of my own house. Victoria moved up. Michael, this is Victoria. Elizabeth asked you to leave. If you don't, we're calling the police. Oh, great. Big sister to the rescue again, he said angrily. I just want to talk to my wife without you butting in. You lost that right when you committed fraud using her name. Victoria fired back. Get out of here. Michael banged on the door. I'm not going anywhere until Elizabeth talks to me face to face. I stepped back and pulled out my phone. I'm calling the police. While I talked to the dispatcher, Michael kept switching between demanding to be let in and begging me to talk. Victoria took video of the door shaking every time he pounded on it. 15 minutes later, 2 cops showed up. Through the peephole, I watched them talking to Michael. He was waving his arms around while they stayed calm. Finally, one officer came to the door while her partner stayed with Michael. I opened the door a crack with Victoria behind me. Ma'am, I'm Officer Ramirez, she said. Your husband says he lives here. And you've locked him out. Ex-husband, technically, Victoria muttered behind me. I took a deep breath. We're getting divorced. He moved out Saturday when I asked him to, and he's been staying with his brother. We have an emergency hearing tomorrow morning about our money and the house. Officer Ramirez nodded. Do you feel safe having him come in to get anything he needs? No, I said firmly. He already took what he needed on Saturday, and he emptied our joint bank account this morning without telling me. The officer nodded again. Wait here, please. I peeked through the peephole as she went back to Michael and her partner. Michael's face turned red as they talked to him, and he kept gesturing wildly. Finally, he threw his arms up like he'd given up. Officer Ramirez returned to my door. Ma'am, we've explained to your husband that since he's been living elsewhere and this appears to be a domestic situation with pending legal proceedings, he doesn't currently have right of access without your permission. He's agreed to leave and handle matters through proper legal channels. Thank you, I said, feeling so relieved. If he returns or causes any further disturbance, don't hesitate to call us again. After the police cars drove away, followed reluctantly by Michael, Victoria and I collapsed on the sofa. You okay? She asked. I nodded, but I was still shaking. I didn't expect him to show up like that. Controlling men hate losing control, Victoria said simply. You did the right thing. That night, I barely slept, going over what I would say at the hearing again and again. By morning, I had dark circles under my eyes, but I was more determined than ever. Daniel met me outside the courtroom at 9:15, wearing a perfectly neat charcoal suit that looked professional but not flashy. Michael got served yesterday evening, he told me, and I got your email with the casino documents. Nice work. Those will really help us. We entered the courtroom to find Michael already seated with a silver-haired lawyer I didn't recognize. Michael wore the same navy suit he'd worn to our friend's wedding last spring, the one he said made him look trustworthy. We made eye contact briefly before he looked away. Judge Harriet Coleman, a no-nonsense woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes, called our case right at 9:30. After quick introductions, she spoke to both lawyers. I've reviewed the emergency petition and supporting documentation, she said. Ms. Morgan claims serious financial misconduct, including identity theft, fraudulent loans, and improper withdrawal of joint funds. Mr. Brennan, does your client want to respond to these claims? Michael's lawyer stood. Your Honor, while Mr. Morgan admits there have been some financial misunderstandings in the marriage, we disagree with calling his actions fraud or identity theft. These were joint financial decisions between spouses who shared assets and liabilities. Daniel stood upright. Away! Your Honor, we have proof that Mr. Morgan faked Ms. Morgan's signature on several loan applications without her knowing about it or agreeing to it. This includes an $80,000 personal loan, 3 credit cards adding up to $27,000, and a $50,000 home equity line of credit against her personal property. Plus, Mr. Morgan actually admitted to doing this, and to losing money gambling in a recorded conversation with Ms. Morgan. Judge Coleman's eyebrows went up a bit. You have this recorded confession? Yes, Your Honor. And this morning we can show you more evidence. Casino letters showing he was still gambling as recently as last week, which goes against what Mr. Morgan told Ms. Morgan about quitting his gambling habit. Michael leaned over and whispered something urgent to his lawyer, who made a face. Judge Coleman looked through the papers in front of her. About the house. Ms. Morgan says this is her separate property that she inherited before getting married. Is that right? Yes, Your Honor, Daniel said. Ms. Morgan got the house from her grandmother 8 years ago, 3 years before she married Mr. Morgan. She did add Mr. Morgan to the deed after they got married as a nice gesture, but the house was already paid off and she's mostly taken care of it with her own income. Mr. Brennan cut in. Your Honor, no matter where it came from, once Mr. Morgan was added to the deed, the house became marital property that should be divided fairly. My client has helped a lot with maintaining and improving it during their marriage. Judge Coleman nodded as she thought about this. I'll consider that when making the final property division. For now, let's deal with the immediate issues. She sorted through her papers. Based on the evidence of financial misconduct and the disputed property, I'm ordering the following temporary measures. First, Ms. Morgan will have sole use of the marital home during these proceedings. Mr. Morgan cannot enter the property without written permission or a court order. Second, all marital assets are frozen until further court orders. Neither of you can sell, transfer, put liens on, or get rid of any marital property without court approval or a written agreement between yourselves. Third, about the money taken from the joint checking account. Mr. Morgan needs to account for those funds within 48 hours and give half back to Ms. Morgan's personal account. Fourth, neither of you can create any more debt in the other person's name or against any joint or separate property. Michael's face got darker as the judge kept talking. I'm setting a full hearing for 30 days from today. Mr. Morgan, you must provide complete financial information, including all accounts, debts, assets, and gambling activities, within 30 days. Ms. Morgan, you need to provide similar information about your finances. She looked directly at both Michael and me. These are serious claims that we'll need to examine thoroughly. I strongly suggest both of you behave appropriately and follow these orders exactly. With that, she tapped her gavel. We're done here. As we collected our papers, Michael tried to come over to me, but Daniel smoothly stepped between us. All communication through lawyers, please, he said firmly to Michael and his attorney. My client has nothing to discuss outside the proper legal channels. Michael's jaw got tight, but his lawyer put a hand on his arm to hold him back and led him away. In the hallway outside the courtroom, I finally took a deep breath. What happens now? Now we prepare, Daniel said, staying just as calm as before. The judge's temporary orders protect you and the house for now, but Michael's lawyer will fight hard on the separate property claim. We need to get all the papers about the house, the inheritance details, what it was worth before you got married, any improvements done during the marriage, and who paid for them. I started listing in my head what papers I already had and what I'd need to find. The big thing will be seeing Michael's money records, Daniel went on. Based on what we've found so far, I think we've only scratched the surface of what he's been doing. The full story could be way worse. Or he might try to hide stuff, I said. Daniel kept his poker face, but his eyes told a different story. He can try. But with the court ordering him to show everything, plus proof he's already been sneaky with money, hiding anything now would totally backfire on him. As we headed for the exit, I suddenly realized this divorce was actually happening. The judge had temporarily protected my house, and Michael had to come clean about all his money secrets, things he'd kept hidden our whole marriage. Elizabeth? Daniel interrupted my thoughts. You okay? I stood up straighter and looked right at him. Yeah, I'm ready for whatever comes next. These papers are incomplete. Daniel's voice was calm but firm as he laid out Michael's financial documents on his desk. Suspiciously incomplete. I leaned forward to look at the pages. We'd been waiting for weeks, and Michael had finally turned in his court-ordered financial paperwork, 2 days late and with obvious stuff missing. What's missing? I asked, though I pretty much knew already. No mention of the First Western account you found papers for. No records from at least 2 of the gambling sites in your evidence. And, conveniently, no explanation for where the $45,000 owed to someone named Carson went. Daniel tapped his pen against a nearly empty page. He's shown just enough to look like he's following the rules while hiding the worst stuff. I wasn't surprised, but it was still disappointing. Even with court orders and the threat of getting in trouble, Michael was still playing games. So what now? Now we go back to court and ask Judge Coleman to make him hand over everything. Daniel gathered the papers into a neat stack. With proof that he's hiding information on purpose, we can ask for penalties, including possible contempt charges. 3 days later, I sat next to Daniel in Judge Coleman's courtroom, watching Michael and his lawyer, Mr. Brennan, at the other table. Michael wasn't his usual cocky self. He looked smaller somehow, hunched over in his suit. Judge Coleman got right to it. Mr. Brennan, I ordered your client to provide complete financial records. Mr. Wilson has filed a motion showing important information is missing. Mr. Brennan stood up, fixing his tie. Your Honor, my client has provided all relevant financial information. Any supposed missing items relate to accounts that are either closed or don't matter to the marital estate. Daniel stood up right away. Your Honor, we have proof of active accounts and major money transfers that Mr. Morgan completely left out of his disclosures. He handed over a folder. These bank statements show money going to and from an account at First Western Bank that Mr. Morgan never mentioned. We also have proof he's been gambling on websites he didn't include in his paperwork. Judge Coleman looked through the papers, her face getting serious. She looked straight at Michael. Mr. Morgan, do you understand that leaving out financial information counts as contempt of court? Michael moved nervously in his seat. Yes, Your Honor. And you're aware that contempt can result in fines or even jail time? Michael turned noticeably pale. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Coleman passed the papers back to her clerk. Mr. Morgan, you have 1 week to provide complete financial records, including all accounts, transactions, debts, and gambling activities for the past 3 years. If you leave anything out next time, I'll consider sanctions, including contempt charges. She stared him down. Is that clear? Yes, Your Honor. Michael's voice sounded small and weak. Mr. Wilson? Judge Coleman continued, turning to Daniel. If you find any more hidden information after the new disclosures come in, bring them to the court right away. Thank you, Your Honor, Daniel replied. As we left the courtroom, I caught Michael staring at me, looking angry and something else. Probably scared. For the first time since this whole mess started, he actually seemed worried. That went well, Daniel said as we walked to the parking garage. Judge Coleman clearly sees through Michael's tricks to hide information. Will he actually show everything next time? I asked. The threat of contempt is serious. Most people won't risk going to jail just to hide money in a divorce. Daniel glanced at me. But we should be ready either way. The next day, I met with Rachel Thompson in her office. The artwork on her walls didn't seem so strange now, not like when I first came in freaking out. Elizabeth, Rachel said as we shook hands. I've gone through the settlement offers from Michael's lawyer. Let's talk about what they mean for your finances. She pulled up a detailed spreadsheet on her monitor and turned to the screen so I could see it. Based on the market right now and what houses are selling for in your neighborhood, yours has gone up about 28% since you inherited it 8 years ago. Rachel pointed to a row of numbers. That puts it at around $580,000 now, way more than the $452,000 it was worth when you married Michael. I stared at the number. That much? Your area's become really popular. Rachel nodded. This makes the house your biggest asset by far, especially since it's paid off. She scrolled to another part of the spreadsheet. Now, about your options. Fighting for full ownership of the house is definitely your best move money-wise. Even with Michael's name on the deed, your inheritance gives you a strong case. Daniel thinks so too, I said, especially given the situation. The situation definitely helps your case. Rachel's tone got more personal. Elizabeth, I've worked with tons of divorce cases where there was financial deception. The courts take identity theft and fraud seriously, even between married people. Her lips pressed together briefly. Which brings me to something important. Have you thought about filing a police report for the identity theft? I'd been avoiding this question. Daniel mentioned I could, but it feels like crossing a line, Rachel finished for me. Exactly. I sighed. It's one thing to divorce Michael, another to maybe send him to jail. Rachel leaned forward, looking serious. I get why you're hesitating, but I need to be clear about something. What Michael did wasn't just wrong, it was against the law. Filing a report doesn't necessarily mean pressing charges, but it creates an official record of the fraud, which helps protect your finances going forward. I thought about what she said. Rachel wasn't just my financial advisor, she'd become someone I trusted. You think I should do it? I think getting the identity theft documented officially helps separate real marital debt from the fake stuff. She tapped her nails on the desk. And honestly, it gives you leverage when negotiating the settlement. 2 days later, I sat across from Detective Rivera at the police station, with a folder of evidence on the desk between us. The room was plain, beige walls, uncomfortable chairs, and I could smell coffee from a nearby break room. Mrs. Morgan? Detective Rivera said, looking through my documents. You've put together really thorough proof of these fake accounts. I wanted to be sure before coming here, I explained. Detective Rivera nodded. Many people feel torn about reporting their spouse, but let me be clear. Using someone's identity without permission for money is a crime, married or not. I thought I'd feel terrible sitting in a police station, officially reporting my husband for fraud. Instead, I felt strangely validated. This wasn't just a marriage problem. He'd broken the law and messed with my financial future. What happens next? I asked. We'll investigate and send what we find to the district attorney. They'll decide whether to press charges. Detective Rivera closed my folder. From the evidence you've brought, bank records and forged signatures, there's plenty of proof of identity theft and fraud. I nodded, picturing Michael sitting in this same room, being questioned about why he'd forged my signature on loan papers. I should warn you, Detective Rivera added. These investigations can take a while, and the DA might call you for more information. As I left the police station with my case number, I called Daniel to fill him in. This really helps our case, he said after I explained what happened. The police report gives us leverage for settlement talks. What do you mean? Michael's facing criminal charges now, not just divorce. That completely changes how we approach this, my lawyer said in that calm, confident way I'd come to appreciate. We can use this to get a better deal. He gives up the house in exchange for you not pushing the police to charge him. Is that ethical? I asked. As long as we're careful with the wording, yeah. We can't promise the charges will go away. That's up to the cops, but you can agree not to push for them to prosecute. A week later, Michael's new financial paperwork showed up. It was way more detailed than before and revealed accounts and debts I had no clue about. His First Western statements showed tons of transfers to gambling websites and cash taken out at casino ATMs. There were also payments to people listed with just first names, including someone called Carson, who got $45,000 over 6 months. What scared me most was finding out he'd tried to take out another loan against my house just 2 weeks before I caught him with the first one. He'd applied for another $75,000 using my home as collateral, but thankfully got turned down. Now we know why he tried so hard to hide all this, my lawyer said as we looked through everything in his office. He was in a downward spiral, making bigger and more desperate money grabs. The debt Michael had racked up, both in his name and fraudulently in mine, was over $320,000, twice what I first thought. I nearly threw up. How could he do this to me? With gambling problems, it just gets worse over time, my lawyer said gently. They keep digging a deeper hole. The next day, I got a call. Michael's lawyer reached out with a settlement offer. Already? That caught me off guard. The police report freaked them out. They're scrambling to settle before he gets charged. His voice was super neutral. They're offering to let Michael keep the house, and he'll pay you half its value, about $290,000, in monthly payments over 10 years. I didn't hesitate. No, absolutely not. Figured you'd say that, he said, and I could tell he was smiling. The house is yours by inheritance, and with Michael's money troubles, those long-term payments would be way too risky. The house isn't on the table, I said firmly. My grandma worked her whole life for that place. I'm not gambling it away on Michael's empty promises. I'll let them know. Meanwhile, we should get ready for trial. He paused. We'll need people who can back up your financial responsibility compared to how Michael handles money. My boss would do it, I suggested. She's known me for years and knows about my work in hospital finances. Perfect. Anyone else who's seen how you both handle money? I thought for a moment. My sister Victoria, obviously. And maybe my friend Sam. She's been around when Michael went on his spending sprees. As we got closer to the trial date, my lawyer set up Michael's deposition. I decided to go, wanting to hear his answers myself rather than just reading them later. The room felt super tense when Michael walked in with his attorney. His eyes got big when he saw me sitting there. He clearly wasn't expecting to face me. After all the legal stuff at the beginning, my lawyer started asking questions. Mr. Morgan, did Mrs. Morgan know about the $80,000 personal loan from Coastal Lending Services before she got a call about a missed payment? Michael squirmed a bit. I don't recall specifically discussing it with her. That's not what I asked, my lawyer said calmly. Did she know about the loan? Michael looked at his attorney, who gave a tiny nod. No. Did she give you permission to sign her name on the loan application? Michael's jaw got tight. No. Did she give you permission to get credit cards in her name? Not specifically, no. Did she know about or approve the home equity line of credit against her inherited property? Michael looked down at his hands. No. And did she know about your gambling? She knew I played poker sometimes. My lawyer raised an eyebrow. Did she know you lost $17,000 in one night on a gambling website? No. Michael was barely audible. And the second home equity application that got denied? Did Mrs. Morgan know you were trying to borrow another $75,000 against her house? Michael turned red. No. For almost 2 hours, my lawyer went through every financial lie, one by one. With each admission, Michael seemed to get smaller in his chair. By the end, Michael couldn't even look at me. His lawyer whispered something to him as things wrapped up, and Michael just nodded, looking totally beaten. 2 days later, I got a call. Michael's attorney wants to meet with us, tomorrow at 10 o'clock in my office. What for? He wouldn't say exactly, but I bet they want to talk settlement again after that train wreck of a deposition. When I got to the office next morning, Michael and his lawyer were already there. Michael looked awful, dark circles under his eyes, and not nearly as put together as usual. After awkward hellos, his lawyer opened a folder. We want to offer a new settlement. My lawyer nodded for him to go on. Mr. Morgan will give up all claims to the house and take his name off the deed right away. In exchange, Mrs. Morgan would agree not to push for criminal charges for the identity theft and fake accounts. I glanced at my lawyer, who kept a straight face. Also, his lawyer added, Mr. Morgan will take full responsibility for the fraudulent loan and work with Coastal Lending to get Mrs. Morgan's name removed. Before my lawyer could answer, Michael burst out, Liz, please. His voice broke. I know what I did was wrong. I betrayed your trust in the worst way, but please don't send me to jail. His lawyer tried to quiet him with a hand on his arm, but Michael kept going. I'll sign the house over completely. I'll take all the debt. Just please don't push for charges. For the first time since finding out what he'd done, I saw real fear in Michael's eyes. Not his usual manipulation or charm, just pure panic. My lawyer turned to me. Elizabeth, you don't have to decide right now. We can talk about this privately. I stared at Michael across the table. 5 years together, and now I was finding out he'd gambled away our savings and lied about God knows what else. I couldn't decide what I wanted more, to see him pay for everything he'd done, or just to get this nightmare over with so I could have my house back and move on with my life. I need to think about it, I told him, keeping my voice calm. After Michael and his lawyer walked out, I sat there alone with the settlement papers, wondering if it was better to fight for what was fair or just end this mess and find some peace. I sat in Daniel's office the next morning, looking at Michael's settlement offer. The bold letters on the page seemed fuzzy as I thought about what this all meant. What's going through your mind, Elizabeth? Daniel asked, interrupting my thoughts. I'm thinking that Michael caused this whole mess, not me, I said, looking up from the papers. He committed fraud. He gambled away money that wasn't even his. Why should I compromise at all? Daniel gave a small nod, his face serious but sympathetic. You have every right to push for criminal charges. The evidence is strong. But think about what you really want here. To get my house back. To get my life back? I said right away. Then that's what we focus on. Daniel leaned in. Going through criminal court takes forever. It's unpredictable, and honestly, it's exhausting. There's no guarantee you'll get what you want, and you'd be stuck dealing with Michael for months, maybe years. I hadn't thought about it that way. The idea of months of court dates, testimony, and having to keep Michael in my life made me feel sick. What if we make a counteroffer? I suggested. I'll agree not to push for criminal charges, but only if he gives up all rights to the house right away, takes his name off the deed, and admits full responsibility for the fake loan. Daniel looked pleased. That's exactly what I was thinking. We can write it so. Authorities could still charge him on their own, but you won't be pushing for it. Can we make him take care of getting my name off the loan? I asked. I don't want that debt following me around forever. Definitely. We'll make it clear he has to work with Coastal Lending to refinance the loan in just his name. Daniel wrote some notes on his pad. This is smart, Elizabeth. You get what's most important and you can finally move on. Everything suddenly seemed clearer. Let's do it. Daniel typed up the counteroffer while I waited. When he printed it and handed it to me, I read every word carefully. The deal was crystal clear. Michael would sign over the house to me right away, take full blame for the Coastal Lending loan and all the credit cards he'd fraudulently opened in my name, and work with the creditors himself to get my name off everything. In return, I wouldn't push for him to be criminally charged for the identity theft. Just so you know, this doesn't mean he's off the hook completely, Daniel said while I looked over the paperwork. The DA could still decide to charge him based on what they already have. But you're giving him what he really wants. You won't be asking them to throw the book at him. And I get my house back, I said, signing the counteroffer. Daniel sent everything to Mr. Brennan that afternoon. We heard back way sooner than I thought we would. Michael accepted everything and signed the agreement. Daniel called to tell me the next day. His lawyer is filing the paperwork to speed up your final divorce hearing. I squeezed my phone. So this is really happening? Yep. Judge Coleman scheduled the final hearing for next Tuesday at 10. Unless something weird happens, you'll be divorced by lunchtime. After hanging up, I sat at my grandma's dining table, touching the smooth wood where our family had eaten meals, done homework, and celebrated holidays for decades. Soon it would actually be mine again, for real. No more joint ownership with someone who'd stab me in the back. We did it, Grandma, I whispered to the empty room. Walking into court for the final hearing felt different. I wasn't as nervous or stressed out. Maybe because I knew what to expect this time. Or maybe because I was finally getting my life back. Michael sat with Mr. Brennan across the table wearing a dark gray suit that hung loose on him. He'd gotten skinnier since I last saw him, his face looking tired under the harsh office lights. Our eyes met for a second as I sat down next to Daniel, but I looked away fast. Judge Coleman walked in right at 10, all business as usual. "We're here for the final hearing in Morgan versus Morgan," she said, looking through the file. "I understand you've reached a settlement?" "Yes, Your Honor," Daniel said, standing up. "We've given you the agreement to review. Both parties have agreed on how to split everything and who pays what." Judge Coleman read the document carefully, her face not giving anything away. "Mr. Morgan has agreed to sign over his rights to the house to Ms. Morgan and take full responsibility for that loan from Coastal Lending?" "That's right, Your Honor," Mr. Brennan said. Judge Coleman looked straight at Michael. "Mr. Morgan, I want to be clear about something. This court has seen lots of evidence that you took out loans and credit cards in your wife's name without telling her. Is that true?" Michael squirmed in his chair. "Yes, Your Honor." "You faked her signature on loan applications?" Michael gulped. "Yes, Your Honor." "And you used that money mostly for gambling?" "Yes, Your Honor." His voice got quieter. Judge Coleman nodded, writing something in the file. "I appreciate your honesty, Mr. Morgan. The court accepts this agreement with the understanding that you'll do everything it says, including getting Ms. Morgan's name off that fraudulent debt." She turned to me. "Ms. Morgan, are you happy with these terms?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said clearly. "Good." Judge Coleman signed the papers with a quick stroke. "This court grants the divorce between Elizabeth Chen Morgan and Michael Morgan, effective today. The property division and financial responsibilities in the settlement are now ordered." She hit her gavel once. "We're done." And just like that, after 5 years of marriage and months of legal stuff, I was divorced. Daniel shook my hand. "Congrats, Elizabeth. You kept it together really well in there." "Thanks for everything," I said, grabbing my stuff. "I'd have been lost without you." "You did the hard part," he said with a small smile. "I just helped you get what you deserved." As we headed toward the door, Michael stepped in front of us with Mr. Brennan hovering nervously behind him. "Liz," Michael said, sounding unsure of himself. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Daniel gave me a, "You okay?" look. I nodded slightly. "I'll wait by the elevator," Daniel said, walking a few steps away. I faced Michael, gripping my purse. "What is it?" He pushed his hair back, something he always did when stressed. "I wanted to thank you for not pressing charges." "I did it for me, not for you," I said honestly. "I know." Michael looked at me, and for once he wasn't trying to charm me or manipulate me. He just seemed sad and maybe sorry. "I really screwed up, Liz. The gambling, it got out of hand before I even knew what was happening." I didn't say anything. What was there to say? "I'm getting help now," he added when I stayed quiet. "Therapy, Gamblers Anonymous, all of it." "That's good, Michael. I hope it works out." He paused, then asked what I should have expected. "Do you think maybe someday we could try again? When I'm better?" A year ago he would have said that with perfect fake sincerity, eyes full of empty promises. This Michael just looked lost. "No," I said, firmly but not harshly. "Some things can't be fixed. Trust is one of them." He nodded slowly, like he knew that's what I'd say, but had to ask anyway. "I really did love you, you know." "Maybe you did," I replied. "But love isn't enough when there's no trust." I walked around him toward Daniel. Before I reached the elevator, Michael called after me. "I'll get the loan transferred, Liz. I promise." I kept walking. 1 month later, I got an envelope from Coastal Lending. I opened it hoping for good news, quickly reading it before letting out a huge sigh of relief. The letter confirmed that Michael had refinanced the $80,000 loan in just his name. My name was completely off it, and my credit report would be fixed. I texted Victoria and Samantha right away. "Loan officially Michael's now. My name is clear. Dinner at my place tonight to celebrate?" They answered almost at the same time. "Hell yes. Bringing champagne. The good stuff. Victoria, WESSS. I'll bring dessert. So proud of you." Samantha. That evening, my kitchen was full of amazing smells and laughter as we cooked together. Victoria opened the champagne while Samantha set out a fancy chocolate dessert from my favorite bakery. To Elizabeth, Victoria said, raising her glass once we sat down to eat. Who taught us all never to mess with a woman who keeps every single receipt? Here, here. Samantha clinked her glass against mine. And to fresh starts. I smiled, feeling free for the first time in forever. To fresh starts. After dinner, Victoria wandered into the living room with her champagne. You know, she said, houses in this neighborhood are selling for crazy money right now. Rachel said you could make a fortune if you decided to sell. I followed her, looking around at the walls I knew so well, the built-in bookshelves my grandma loved, the big window where I spent hours reading as a kid. I'm not selling, I said, totally certain. No? Victoria raised an eyebrow. You could buy something new without all the Michael memories. I shook my head. This house was never about Michael. It was Grandma's house before it was mine. It's something he tried to take from me but couldn't. Samantha appeared in the doorway. Plus, it's a gorgeous house in a great neighborhood that's paid off. Only an idiot would give that up. Or someone running from bad memories, Victoria suggested. I ran my hand along the worn edge of the bookshelf, feeling the little dent where my grandma accidentally bumped it with her vacuum years ago. I'm not running anymore, I said simply. This is my home. Always has been. Victoria smiled, actually looking proud of me. Good for you. Besides, I added with a little smile, I have some remodeling plans. Starting with Michael's office. Ooh, what are you turning it into? Samantha asked, all excited. A yoga room, I think. Or maybe just a space that's completely mine, where I don't have to compromise on a single thing. We laughed together, the sound filling rooms that had been so tense and full of secrets for months. Later that night, after Victoria and Samantha left, I sat alone at my grandma's table with one last glass of champagne. My phone dinged with an email from Daniel's office. The subject line said, Final documentation, house deed. I opened it to find a scanned copy of the house deed, newly filed with the county. It had just one owner, Elizabeth Chen Morgan. I traced my name on the screen, thinking about how much had changed since that first call about a missed payment. I'd lost a husband but found strength I didn't know I had. The house was quiet around me, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like possibility. 6 months flew by as I started my new life. I sat across from Rachel Thompson in her bright office while the afternoon sun poured through the windows. She was showing me the financial plan she'd made for me, my roadmap to building a future that was all mine. Your credit score has bounced back really well, Rachel said, turning her tablet so I could see the chart. Those fraud alerts and all the paperwork we filed did the trick. You're in great shape now. I couldn't help but grin at the numbers. From 590 to 782 in 6 months. I never thought that was possible when we started. You'd be surprised what you can do with good records and by not giving up. Rachel smiled. You did all the hard work. I just showed you how. She pulled up another screen with my investment portfolio. It wasn't huge, but it was growing nicely since I'd opened it 3 months ago, with my first bonus from the hospital after my divorce. Let's talk about your retirement plans, Rachel said, tapping through some options on her tablet. With your house paid off and no debt, we can really pump up your retirement savings. For the next hour, we went over a complete money plan. Retirement accounts, emergency funds, investments, all the stuff to make sure I'd be okay in the future I was building. Rachel explained everything clearly, never rushing when I had questions. I've worked with lots of people recovering from money problems, Rachel said as we wrapped up. But not many tackle it the way you did, so organized and determined. Well, I had really good help, I said, gathering my notes. Rachel looked at me thoughtfully. Have you thought about sharing your story with others? How you kept track of the fraud and got your financial life back? That could really help people going through the same thing. I paused. I wouldn't even know where to start. Actually, Rachel reached into her desk drawer. I run a money support group twice a month for women dealing with tough money situations. Many of them have had partners who controlled or stole their money. She handed me a cream card. We meet this Thursday at the community center. I think you'd really help the group. I don't think I know enough to help anyone, I said, looking at the card. Elizabeth. Rachel's tone got serious. 6 months ago, you came in with color-coded proof of what your husband did to you. You'd already set up your own bank accounts, got evidence, and talked to a lawyer. You're exactly who these women need to hear from. I put the card in my purse. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. Rachel smiled and stood up. Besides, you've already figured this stuff out. Might as well share what you learned. 2 days later, I walked into a bright meeting room at the West Side Community Center with my notebook, seriously thinking about just leaving. About 10 women sat in a circle, some talking quietly, others on their phones or looking through papers. Rachel spotted me right away and came over in a green dress that made her look both friendly and professional. "Elizabeth, I'm so glad you came." She squeezed my arm gently. "No pressure to speak today. Just watch if you want." I nodded thanks and grabbed a seat. Rachel kicked off the meeting with some quick money basics before introducing today's topic: how to spot when someone's lying about money in a relationship. "We have someone new with us," Rachel said, pointing to me. "Elizabeth just went through a divorce with some serious financial fraud involved. She's joined us and might share some of her experience." I blushed as several women looked my way. A woman about my age with blonde hair and a French twist noticed and gave me a quick, understanding smile. Rachel led the discussion like she'd done it 100 times before, asking women to share warning signs they'd missed or noticed in their relationships. One talked about a husband who insisted on handling all the money because she was too emotional about money. Another mentioned finding out credit card statements had been sent to a P.O. box she knew nothing about. Each story reminded me of my own situation, and I got more worked up listening to them. When nobody spoke for a moment, I jumped in. "I found out my husband forged my signature on an $80,000 loan when the lender called about a missed payment," I said, sounding calmer than I felt. "He'd been moving money from our joint account to his personal account for months, but I never caught on because I trusted him to handle our finances." The blonde woman leaned forward a bit, watching me. "What did you do?" asked a woman in her 50s with a silver streak in her dark hair. "First, I got proof of everything," I explained, getting more confident. "I took pictures of the forged documents, downloaded bank statements showing the transfers, and grabbed all my personal ID documents. Then I talked to a lawyer who deals with financial fraud in marriages. As I described how I collected evidence before confronting him, several women took notes. Rachel nodded to encourage me. The most important thing I learned," I continued, "was that financial deception isn't just a relationship issue, it's often illegal. Using someone's identity or forging their signature on financial documents is fraud, even between spouses." The blonde woman stopped writing in her notebook. "My husband told me adding my name to loan applications was just a formality. That since we're married, my signature wasn't really needed." I looked her in the eye. "That's not true. Your signature means you legally agree to take on debt. No one can legally sign for you unless you specifically allow it." For the next 40 minutes, I answered questions about fraud alerts, credit freezes, separate accounts, and how to gather evidence. The women listened carefully, some looking like they were connecting dots, others looking more and more worried. When the meeting ended, Rachel came over with the blonde woman. "Elizabeth, I'd like you to meet Emma Williams. Emma, this is Elizabeth Morgan. Your story really hit home for me," Emma said quietly with a slight British accent. "Especially about finding accounts you never knew about. Something about how carefully she chose her words and the worry on her face made me think she needed help. Want to grab coffee?" I offered on the spot. "The cafe next door is pretty empty this time of day." Emma paused, then nodded. "I'd like that, actually." At a corner table away from other people, Emma's confident look started to crack. "I picked up a call from a collection agency last month," she said quietly. "They were after me for a credit card bill I never even opened. When I checked my credit report, I found 3 accounts I'd never heard of, and a loan someone was trying to get in my name. That sounded way too familiar." "And your husband?" "Claimed they were joint applications I'd forgotten signing." Emma kept fidgeting with her napkin. "But I never sign financial stuff without reading every word. I create architectural visualizations for a living. I don't miss details. Have you talked to a lawyer yet?" I asked carefully. She shook her head. "I've been collecting proof first, keeping records of everything, but I'm stuck on what to do next. Confronting him directly feels dangerous somehow." I grabbed one of Daniel's business cards from my purse. "Daniel Wilson handles cases just like ours. He's straightforward but kind, and he won't push you into anything. He'll just help you figure out what your options are." Emma took the card, looked it over, then slipped it into her wallet. "You actually got your life back together after all this?" "I did." I gave her a reassuring smile. 6 months ago, I was right where you are. Scared, confused, totally betrayed. But little by little, I got my life back. You can too." "Thank you," Emma said, blinking back tears. As we said goodbye outside the cafe, she stood up straighter and breathed in deep. "I'll call him tomorrow. Text me if you need anything," I said, now that we had each other's numbers. "Even if you just want to talk." Walking to my car, I felt lighter somehow. I hadn't even realized how much I'd been carrying around. For so long, what happened to me felt shameful, something to hide, but sharing it to help others turned it into something good. like I could actually help people going through the same thing. 3 weeks later, a certified letter came from the district attorney's office. I opened it at my kitchen table, my stomach tightening as I read through all the official wording. The DA decided to go after Michael with criminal charges for identity theft and fraud, even with our agreement. The letter asked me to be a witness, but mentioned they'd keep going with or without me. I called Daniel right away. "I'm not surprised," he said after I told him what was happening. "The evidence we put together was pretty solid, and they can go after fraud cases on their own if they have enough proof." "But we had an agreement," I said, fidgeting with the corner of the letter. "I promised not to push for charges if he gave up the house." "And you didn't push for charges," Daniel reminded me. "The DA is doing this based on the police report. Your deal with Michael was that you wouldn't actively try to get him prosecuted, not that you'd step in if the authorities decided to move forward on their own." I leaned back in my chair. "So what happens now?" "The criminal justice system does its thing. Michael will probably get offered a deal instead of going to trial. Probably some probation, financial counseling classes, and paying money back." "What should I do?" I asked, feeling more confused than happy about it. "That's completely up to you," Daniel replied. "You don't have to do anything beyond answering official requests. You kept your end of the deal by not asking for charges. Whatever the authorities do with what they found isn't on you." After we hung up, I sat with the letter for a long time, feeling weirdly disconnected from everything it described. 6 months ago, I might have felt responsible for Michael's situation. Now I saw things differently. He made his choices, and these were just the results. I decided I wouldn't get in the way of the legal stuff. I wouldn't ask them to be harder on him, but I also wouldn't try to protect him anymore. It wasn't my problem to fix. That weekend, I hired contractors to start redoing what used to be Michael's home office. The room had stayed closed up since the divorce, with the door shut on all those memories of finding his lies in those neatly organized drawers. "So, what are you thinking for this room?" asked Carlos, the contractor Victoria had recommended. "Something completely different," I said firmly. "New flooring, new paint, new use." We decided on turning it into a reading room with built-in bookshelves and a window seat looking out at the garden. Every design choice, from the soft sage green walls to the natural oak shelving, was just what I wanted. No compromises needed. "We'll need to take out the current built-ins," Carlos noted, looking at the desk where Michael had kept his hidden files. "They're not bad quality, but they're really made for office use." "Take out everything," I said, with no doubt. In my mind, I want a fresh start. When the demolition began, I felt weirdly free watching the desk being torn apart. As the wood broke apart, I felt myself letting go of the past. I tackled the kitchen next, the place where I'd made all those meals for Michael while he was busy lying to my face. Got rid of those dark granite countertops he just had to have, and put in warm butcher block instead. Switched out those harsh industrial lights for softer ones, and painted the cabinets a soft white that made the whole room so much brighter. With each project I finished, the house felt more like it was actually mine. I filled it with colors and textures I actually liked, instead of all those compromises that had slowly chipped away at what home should feel like. One Monday morning in late spring, I got an official letter saying Michael had taken a plea deal. No jail time, but he had to do 2 years of probation, go to gambling addiction treatment, and pay back the money from all those fake accounts he'd opened. The settlement said I'd get a check for $27,000 for those credit cards he opened in my name. But honestly, the money just felt dirty. Like I didn't even want to touch it because it reminded me of everything he'd done. That night, I started looking up groups that help women learn about money management. One really stood out: Financial Foundations for Women, a nonprofit that teaches women about finances and helps those trying to get away from financial abuse. I called their director the next day and told her I wanted to give them the whole $27,000 when I got it. They were super grateful, but what really felt good was knowing that money would help women like Emma get out and stand on their own. Victoria came over for dinner the next week with a great bottle of wine and her usual no BS attitude. "I heard something you should know," she said as we sat down on the patio with our wine. "Michael's going around telling everyone in the family that you ruined his life. He's playing the poor victim card with anybody who'll listen." A year ago, hearing that would have wrecked me. Now, I just shook my head. "Of course he is," I said, taking a sip of wine. "That's classic Michael, making up whatever story makes him look good." Victoria gave me a long look. "You're seriously not upset?" "Why would I be? Whatever story he makes up doesn't change what actually happened. Some people are buying it," Victoria warned. "Cousin David actually asked me if you were really as vindictive as Michael was making you out to be." I put my glass down. "What'd you say to him?" "To get his head out of his ass." Victoria grinned, not sorry at all. But what really worked was showing him the actual court papers. Once he saw everything in black and white, he shut up real fast. I nodded, grateful for how she always went to bat for me, even though it wasn't how I'd handle it. I'm not wasting my time defending myself against Michael's BS. The people who actually matter know what really happened. Look at you, Victoria said, raising her glass. All grown up and not taking the bait anymore. Grandma would be so proud. I think she would, I agreed, looking out at her garden, now full of the flowers I'd planted in spring. She always told us to just wait it out. The truth always comes out eventually. When I realized I was coming up on a year since my divorce was final, I decided to throw a housewarming party. Not because I'd just moved in, the place had been in my family forever, but because it finally felt like my house, in a way it never did before. I invited everyone who'd had my back during the worst of it. Victoria and her husband Robert, Samantha, Rachel, Daniel and his wife Cheryl, and Emma, who'd just left her husband, with some legal help from Daniel. The night of the party, my kitchen was buzzing with conversation and laughter. I'd left the new French doors wide open to the patio where I'd strung up lights that made the summer evening feel magical. This place looks amazing, Samantha said, turning around to check out all the changes. Her colorful skirt twirled as she spun, and the little wooden beads in her curly hair caught the light. I can't believe it's the same house. It's not, I told her. Huh? It's way better. Emma showed up looking more confident than I'd ever seen her. She'd even worn her blonde hair down instead of in that super tight ponytail she always had before. My separation papers went through yesterday, she told me quietly as we walked to the patio. I feel like I can finally breathe again after all this time. Getting started is the worst part, I told her. It honestly gets easier from here on out. Once everyone was there, Victoria tapped her glass to get our attention. For once, her usual bluntness had softened a bit. I could tell she was actually feeling something. I'd like to propose a toast, she announced. 1 year ago, my sister got hit with the kind of betrayal that would have wrecked most people. Instead, she kept receipts on everything. This got a bunch of knowing laughs from everyone, and fought like hell for what was hers. She lifted her glass higher. To Elizabeth, who showed us all that it's not about whether you get knocked down. It's about how you pick yourself back up. To Elizabeth, everyone echoed, lifting their glasses. Daniel added, and to fresh starts. Rachel smiled. To handling your own money and not answering to anybody. To helping other women figure it out, Emma said quietly. Samantha, who never does anything halfway, grinned big. To kicking ass and taking names. I looked around at these people who'd become more than just friends. They'd seen me go from totally betrayed to standing on my own. My house felt solid around us, and now these walls held my story instead of Michael's lies. To all of you, I said, raising my drink, for being there when I needed you most. And to this house, I glanced up at the ceiling, for waiting for me to come back home. While everyone chatted and laughed, I peeked into what used to be Michael's office. I'd turned it into a reading room, with empty shelves ready for my books. The place had changed, and so had I. I touched the smooth oak shelves, thinking about women like Emma going through the same mess I did. I wasn't just getting by anymore. I wanted to help others deal with what I'd been through. Through the doorway, I heard my friends laughing. This house was really mine now,